The Belarusian Olympian who rejected orders to return home is now safe in Poland. Sprinter Krystyna Tymanovskaya arrived in Warsaw Wednesday. Belarusian officials tried to force her to leave the Olympics last weekend after she criticized team coaches. But after her family warned it wasn't safe to return, she asked for political asylum while at the Tokyo airport. Poland then offered Tymanovskaya and her husband humanitarian visas. Back in authoritarian Belarus, troubling evidence is emerging of what may be a prison camp for political dissidents. It was found deep in the forest. Nick Payton-Walsh is live in London with this exclusive report. Nick, take us through what you found.
Certainly the fate of athlete Tymanovskaya has shone a harsh light on repression that's been happening inside Belarus for well over a year now, many would say actually decades. But these new findings, video and witness statements we've received, appear to show an extreme harshening of Belarusian state preparations to potentially hold political prisoners further down the line in protests that may happen in the months ahead. Here's what we saw.
A chilling sight, not from the last century, but last month. A possible prison camp built inside Belarus for political prisoners. CNN obtained this footage of what witnesses said looked like a newly refurbished camp about an hour's drive from the capital, Minsk. A new sign saying, "Forbidden border and entry." A 3-layer fence, electrified, they said. New moving surveillance cameras, bars and reflective screens on the windows of newly rebuilt barracks. No prisoners yet, what looked like a soldier inside, and regular military patrols who told our witnesses outside to leave. One local talked to them anonymously. "My friend Sasha, a builder, told me they've refurbished this place," he said. "There are 3 levels of barbed wire and it's electrified. I was picking mushrooms here when a military man came up to me and said I can't walk here." The buildings sit on the vast site of a former Soviet missile storage facility surrounded by forest. The repairs came not long after defecting police officers released secret recordings of senior police discussing the need for prison camps at several sites.
The assignment? To develop and build a camp, but not for prisoners of war or even the interned, but a camp for the especially sharp-hooved for resettlement, and surround it with barbed wire along the perimeter.
Unsurprisingly, CNN hasn't gained access to the interior of the site, so we can't definitively say that it is intended for use as a prison camp. But a Western intelligence official I spoke to said that use was, quote, possible, although they didn't have direct evidence. In the current climate, it's tough to imagine what else the camp could be for. Opposition leaders fear its possible use by President Alexander Lukashenko's forces during future protests.
It's not surprising that he's trying to build something like a regular prison camp, because the new wave of protest will come up anyway. It can be triggered by his statement, it can be triggered by economic situation, but it will come. And he understands, and he also wants to be prepared more than last year in 2020. This is why I will not be surprised if such camps are being built.
Belarusian officials declined to comment and have called the recording about camps fake news when it was released, saying they followed the law. These images emerge after a weeks-long crackdown against remaining independent media inside Belarus and dozens of arrests. Inside Belarus, the protest movement's been persecuted so hard it now holds remote flash mob demonstrations like these, filmed by drones. But some of it is finding ways to hit back, CNN has learned. These are railway saboteurs, apparently in action. They say their operations, the details of which we aren't disclosing, just trigger alarms that stop trains on the tracks, risking nobody's safety and causing traffic to slow down, they say. We spoke to one organiser. When our skies are blocked, he said, we should block the land as well. The main goal is to cause economic damage to the regime because all the delays cause them to pay huge fines. This action was carried out, they said, on a key route from Russia to the European Union. CNN can't independently confirm it was effective. If there is an impact on rail traffic, it could have great significance outside of Belarus and here, Lithuania, because so many goods from the east rely on this network to get to Europe. Signs both sides could be adopting new, harsher tactics, and what may await fresh protests as the screws tighten.
So you can see really there the frankly terrifying climate inside of Belarus. You have to ask yourself, what is that facility we found in the forest if it's not intended at some point to house prisoners? The horrifying climate inside Belarus that certainly would have been in the mind of Olympic athlete Kristina Timanovskaya when she told me her grandmother said she'd been criticised on state television for her critical remarks about the Olympic team there, causing her to seek asylum in Poland. She is supposed to talk later on today from Poland, but I think it's the clumsy, threatening behaviour of the Lukashenko regime towards her that has certainly shone a spotlight on their behaviour internally. But remember too, also, I think possibly cast a greater pall of fear over that at large Belarusian diaspora forced to leave the country because of the repression and possibly the feeling that Minsk, Belarus feels increasingly confident globally about how far it can throw its repressive tactics.
Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life.